Hi, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel, Jamie Sage Knits. Today I will be sharing the video I'm probably most excited for yet, which is my 2024 recap. So in this video I'll be sharing everything I knit in 2024, including rating each project based on a combination of factors. It'll be a subjective rating based on how clear I thought the pattern was, how pleased I was with my yarn choice, how fun it was to work on, how it's been wearing since then, and just kind of how it fits into my wardrobe and my life. I'll be explaining each rating as well, so you can figure out if it's one that will resonate with your knitting style as well. I'll also be sharing how much I spent on each pattern, including the yarn and the pattern cost. And at the end, I'll be including a recap of my spending on knitting for the year. I would say knitting is my biggest hobby, and so I thought it would be interesting to see how much I spend on this hobby that does bring me so much joy and so much fulfillment and relaxation, and that cost will include not only yarn that I've bought, but also notions and knitting tools. And just to give a little context, I've talked a bit about this in prior videos, but I've been knitting for a super long time, like almost 20 years now, and it's only in the last couple of years that I've got really into garment knitting and more complex knitting. Before that, I did a lot of like scarves and hats and accessories, but my knitting journey has been like exponential. For many years I was just doing scarves, then I got a little bit into hats, then I made like mittens, and it's really been in the past like year or two that I've gotten more into garments, and this year has definitely been my most prolific year of knitting, so I'm so excited to share everything that I've worked on. And but the reason for that context is in my kind of financial recap. You'll probably notice that I've had to buy some things that are kind of basic, like interchangeable needle sets and like needle stoppers to prevent the stitches from falling off and stuff like that that I just hadn't ever invested in before. So this has been a very big year in my knitting journey, and I'm very excited to recap it with you. I'll do my best to insert some B-roll and maybe written stats of each project, and I'll also describe the details that I can in terms of the specs of the project, in terms of what yarn I used. And I also am going to include what is called the Sabu score, standard adult beanie units. So this is a kind of quantitative measure of how complicated a pattern is, and this is something that I learned about from the channel Two Pearls in a Pod. I think it's really fun to have this comparative metric of how much like energy and complexity goes into a project. So a unit of 1 would mean the energy and time and complexity of like a pretty standard adult beanie, and then a 3, for example, would mean whatever that project is, it takes about 3 times as much time and complexity and effort as 3 standard adult beanies. So I think that's nice, and you'll see there's a pretty wide range of my projects that I plugged all the stats into this calculator. So I'm very excited to share, and you'll notice maybe my stack behind me is a little short because I actually have a couple stacks. I tried to put everything in one pile and it like fell over. So I'm going to bring each project for its little spotlight. You might notice me looking at my laptop and at all the stats because I definitely can't remember this off the top of my head, and I want to give you as much context as possible so that you can decide if you're interested in any of these projects. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below what's your favorite project from 2024, and feel free to subscribe to follow along with my podcasts and my 2025 knitting. Before we dive in, I also want to mention what I'm wearing today. This actually is one of the first garments that I ever knit. This is the Stav dress by Chai Crafts. It's a very simple stockinette kind of long dress with drop shoulders and 1x1 ribbing. And I knit this in Mayflower Easy Care, which is 100% superwash merino wool, and I find it pretty comfortable to wear against the skin. And I knit it a couple of years ago when I started making garments, and I still wear it to this day. So with that, let's dive right into my first project. This is the Changes Sweater by Katja Derberg, or Pop Knit, and I had been following her on Instagram for a bit and just obsessed with her patterns, like so colorful, such cool textures and stitch patterns, and this one really stood out to me in particular because it is 2-color brioche. If you've been watching my podcast, you know I test knit the Waterbender Sweater by Pufido Knits, and that is what got me into 2-color brioche. I realized it's not so bad, and then I decided to escalate by doing 2-color brioche with cables. And this project I definitely found a bit tricky. There's a lot going on. The pattern wasn't the clearest that I've ever encountered, and I don't know if that's an issue with the translation, because I think the pattern is originally written, I'm going to say the wrong Scandinavian country, maybe in Danish, I'm not positive. Yeah, maybe it was a translation issue, I'm not really sure. But I don't know. To back up and give a little more context on this, it is knit on 6mm needles, like I mentioned, with 2 colors. It's all over brioche, with cables down the front, the back, and the sleeves. And it has raglan shaping. It also has some waist shaping, which is interesting. And it also has I-cord edging. And I personally knit a size 2. The bust circumference ranges from 42.5 to 60.5 inches, with 8 to 10 inches of positive ease recommended, so a decent range. And I also should mention the time frame of this. I knit it from mid-December 2023 to mid-January of 2024. So I started this in 2023 but finished it this year, so I'm counting it. And in terms of the yarn I used for this main color, which is a wool, I used Knit Picks Swish DK in the color white, and this is a superwash merino with 123 yards or 112 meters per 50 grams. And then the kind of non-dominant color is recommended to use a mohair or a mohair held double. So I used Knit Picks Aloft in the color Plover, held double, and this is a yarn that's 72% mohair, 28% silk, and that's 260 yards, 238 meters per 25 grams. And the cost of this project was about $120 for the yarn, especially because the mohair was held double. It really added up, and it was a little under $9 for the pattern. So it's a total cost of about $130, and with all the factors in mind, I would probably rate this project a C. Starting off not too great. There are a lot of great things about this pattern. Like, it is really beautiful. The concept is awesome. I'm not super pleased with my yarn choice. At the time I made this, it was at the beginning of this year. I was still pretty early in my garment knitting experience, and I don't know, if I went back, I don't know if I would use superwash yarn. I don't know if I would use this exact mohair. It's very soft, but it sheds a lot. So if I wear this with anything dark colored, if I wear it with like a purse, like the mohair fibers are just coming everywhere. Even when I was knitting with it, it would be like collecting in like little hairballs of mohair. So I mean, that's like a classic thing. The softer a yarn is, like the more it pills with mohair, like the more it sometimes sheds. So I'm not sure I would use this mohair again, even though it is like so soft, like in my opinion, 0% itchy. Like so soft. I can wear it against skin really easily, but it's a trade-off with the shedding. Also, I will say I followed the directions for doing 2-color brioche. The designer has like a video showing how to do 2-color brioche with both colors in one round, whereas before that I had done the approach where you do one round that's just the dominant color and then one round that's just the non-dominant color. And I was very successful with that prior method. With this method of doing both in one round, I tried to adjust my tension, but I just like could not get the fabric to look how hers did. And in hindsight, maybe I should have adjusted the pattern instructions to do it in like twice as many rounds in a sense, but I didn't. So my pearls are like way too tight, and I couldn't figure out how to make that not happen. But like based on that, everything is off. Like my gauge is really off. The entire fit of the sweater is so different than hers. Hers is like this oversized drapey fabric. Mine is like tight, like it has negative ease, and that's not bad. Like I do still wear it and I still like it, but it just looks totally different, and I don't know where I went wrong. It might be because I knit English style, not continental, and I actually don't even remember now because it's like a year ago, but I think the way she showed it is like kind of more appropriate for continental knitters, so maybe that's why my tension like couldn't be resolved. But I don't know, it made the sweater a lot longer and narrower, and so just overall all these factors together, it was pretty expensive. It was a pretty fun sweater to knit, aside from like the mohair hairballs. Yeah, it was just kind of middle of the road for me. I'll also say I actually found a mistake in the pattern, like one that I didn't know how to move past. I don't know if it was a translation issue or what, but I emailed the designer and she was very like kind about it. She explained to me the correct version, and then she, I think, issued a corrected version of the pattern on Ravelry. So that was great. I've heard like horror stories from people who like email the designer for help and then receive really rude responses. So that was not the case at all. She was very nice and helpful, and I was able to move past it. But yeah, I have not ventured to do another pop knit pattern, even though I love looking at her designs. I was just a little bit thrown off, but maybe that'll be a goal for 2025, is to challenge myself. Overall, this is not my most favorite garment. You can also see my increases are a little like messy. I don't know. This is not my most favorite. All right, next. This actually is a gift knit. This is the Arctic Spring Sweater or Pullover by the Petite Knitter. I feel like it's pretty well known, so you might have heard of her and her beautiful colorwork patterns. This sweater I knit from January 10th to February 16th, so about a little over a month. This one is knit on 4.5mm needles with a circular yoke, stranded colorwork, and then plain stockinette for the rest of the body and the sleeves, except for the collar, the hem, and the cuffs are 1x1 rib folded over and sewn in. I made a size 6 for my fiance. The bust circumference measures from 30 to 65 inches across sizes, so a pretty wide range. I don't know if there's a recommended ease specified. I think we chose a size that had like a couple inches of positive ease. And overall, I found the pattern very straightforward. In terms of the yarn I chose, we were pretty inspired by one of the model photos in the pattern. We did a light gray background. This is Drops Flora in the color 03 light gray. Then we also used 05 dark gray, and then 23 Misty Forest. And you can probably see the mohair halo. All of those wools were held with mohair. So for the mohair, I used Drops Kid Silk in the color 44 Moonshine, 23 Ash Gray, and then for the green, 37 North Sea. And I have talked about both of those yarns before, but just in case you aren't familiar, Drops Flora is a fingering weight yarn that is 65% wool and 35% alpaca. It has about 210 meters per 50 grams, and then Drops Kid Silk is 75% mohair, 25% silk, with about 210 meters per 25 grams. And I actually find this really, really soft, especially after blocking. I don't find it very itchy at all, but I'm not someone who's super sensitive to mohair. I will say the Drops Kid Silk, I feel like it kind of gets a bad rap for being itchy. In my experience, some colors are like itchier than others, but maybe with these ones we just got lucky. And also I don't find that it sheds very much, like definitely a lot less than Knit Picks Aloft, for instance. So I was very happy with my yarn choice for this, except that something went wrong with blocking. So this was one of the earlier, maybe one of the first stranded colorwork patterns that I did. So my tension wasn't amazing. I thought it would be, like, my fiance wore it a few times before blocking and it looked fine, but we thought it would look more polished with blocking to allow the colorwork to relax, and it definitely does. Like, it looks very beautiful now, I think. But I think, I don't know, something went wrong with it. It stretched out lengthwise too much. So now it's like just an awkward length on him. And then he also realized that he doesn't like the hem, how it's folded over. It does create kind of a weird, it's like too squishy. It's not very masculine, I would say. And so the collar looks fine, but the hem and then also even the sleeve cuffs, it's just a little too like squishy with the folded over ribbing. So due to it being too long and the issues with the ribbing, sometime in the next month or so, I probably will go back in and just like pick it out, pick up the stitches, and redo the bind off in another manner. Maybe I'll just do like plain ribbing, 1x1 ribbing, and then just like cast it off. So I will do that and we'll see how it goes. I really love this sweater. I love the colors. I love the feel of it. And so overall, I would say this gets a B, just because of the issues with blocking and the fact that I don't love the one by one rib folded over. I've used that in other situations and I do like it, but here I just feel like it doesn't look very neat. Maybe the pattern didn't direct to use small enough needles, or I don't know what it is, but yeah, I think the colors are nice. The pattern was very clearly written, and the blocked fabric is quite soft with a great drape. And the yarn, because it was drops, wasn't too bad. It was about $66. My fiance actually paid for it. We did this as like a gift exchange to each other for like 2023 holidays. So he bought the yarn and then I knit it for him and gifted it back to him. And the pattern itself was, I think, around $9.50. So it was a total of around $75 for this sweater, which for a wool, alpaca, and mohair, pretty large men's sweater, I think it's pretty good. So overall, I'm happy with this. I just have to go back and fix the hem, and then hopefully he'll get a lot of wear out of it, but you can see it's a beautiful drape. Next up, we have the Jellybean Sweater by Vicky Knits, and I knit this one pretty quick from February 13th to 25th. This is knit up on 10mm needles using Intarsia colorwork. It's knit in flat panels for the front, back, and each sleeve, and then it's seamed together. Then stitches are picked up in 1x1 ribbing for the collar and for the sleeve cuffs. And I made size medium. The sizing range for this isn't so great. It ranges, I think there's only like 3 or 4 sizes from 43 to 54 inches. And I really just chose this pattern because I was looking for a stash buster. I had a lot of single ply, bulky or super bulky yarn that I had accumulated over the years. I went through a phase where I loved it, especially because I would get a lot of the wool and the petite wool from We Are Knitters for hats. I had all these bright colors and I wanted to find a way to bring them together. So to specify the yarns in this project, there are 3 colors of We Are Knitters petite wool. This one is bubblegum. Let's see. This one here is Millennial Pink, and then this one here is Aquamarine. I also used 2 colors of Lang Yarn Virginia in 34 and 74. I believe that's like this rich blue color and then this teal color. And then I used Lana Grossa Regatta Lei in 79. I believe that is this, nope. This kind of, I don't know what to call that, like a lilac type color. And then the last one I used is Imperial Yarn Native Twist in 218 Tufted Primrose. And that is this here, this more cool toned purpley color. So these are all, like I mentioned, bulky or super bulky single ply, and they're all 100% wool. So this sweater, because it was on 10mm needles, was pretty quick to work up. I will say the pattern is designed, the color charts, for 5 colors, and then I adapted them to be for 7 colors because I knew I wanted to use up as much of all of these yarns as possible. And then I actually ran out of yarn for the last 6 stitches, 6 or 7 stitches of the bind off. So you can see I had to use this other like random yarn that I had for the last 6 stitches, which is pretty crazy. But overall, I actually really like this sweater. I think it's super cute and fun. In terms of the cost, it's a little hard to say because these were all just yarns that I had sitting around in my stash. So in a sense, this pattern did me a favor in allowing me to use them up. But in my calculation, I think I've only counted balls that I used entirely for this project. And then the 3 We Are Knitters one I had also used for hats. So I didn't count those. So excluding the We Are Knitters, this took about $60 to $63 worth of yarn, and the pattern was about $7. So in total, I calculated this at about $70, which, I mean, with bulky yarns, we know like they tend to cost a bit more because it's harder to get the yardage. And so this sweater is, like, the fabric is thicker than a lot, but the gauge is a little bit loose. So it's not too hot. I like to wear this sweater, especially in like the spring and in the fall. And it's really fun to wear. It's really cozy. It gets a lot of compliments, a lot of comments just because it is so unique. And I don't know if I've knit anything else in Intarsia. So yeah, overall, I would give this probably a B as well. I think it's really cute and fun. It's quick. I had a fine experience with Intarsia. It's a very effective stash buster, and I do wear it like a decent amount. Since it's all in single ply bulky yarns, it is pilling a bit. Some of the ends kind of like peek out. That might just be on me. I didn't weave them in very well because I consider this a more casual project. Overall, I really like it. I would recommend looking into the pattern if you're interested. Great stash buster, but it's not one of my like absolute favorite patterns, but I do love it. The colors are so fun. Alrighty, next, we're in my colorwork era. We have another colorwork sweater, but this one is stranded. This is, I would say, one of my favorite projects of the year. Oh, just touching it makes me so happy. This is the Fluffy Tulip Sweater by Hip Knit Shop. This one I knit from March 7th to April 10th. This is an all-over stranded colorwork that is knit on 7mm needles. It's a drop shoulder, and it's knit bottom up in the round, then flat for the chest and back, pick up stitches for the collar, pick up stitches for the sleeves, knit them down in the round, and there is, I think, 1x1 ribbing. Or no, 2x2 ribbing for the collar and the sleeve cuffs. I made a size medium. The bust circumference ranges from 44 to 50 inches, so not good on size inclusivity. I don't know if I would buy another pattern from this designer, just because since I knit this, I've become a bit more aware of the importance of size inclusivity and the importance of, all knitters really trying to encourage designers to be size inclusive and to support patterns that are size inclusive. However, I did really love my experience knitting this. I used 2 strands held together of Drops brushed alpaca silk in the colors 1 off-white, 31 hot pink, this one is 33 pistachio ice cream, and then the orange is 37 sweet apricot. And this yarn is 77% alpaca and 23% mulberry silk. It has 153 yards or 140 meters per 25 grams. And I really love this yarn. It is so soft, so nice, so fluffy. I absolutely love this sweater. I would give this an A. It has a couple of drawbacks, but I overall love it so much. I get compliments whenever I wear it. It's super soft and cozy. However, I do wish the green stood out more. That's on me. My color selection, choosing online, sometimes it's hard. It's also kind of limited to the spring, given the motif. Of course you could wear it anytime, but I just feel like it would feel out of place. So I only wear it in the spring, but I wear it a lot in the spring, probably at least once a week. And then the other drawback is around the lack of size inclusivity. So that's why it gets an A instead of an S tier. But yeah, overall, I really loved knitting this up. It was super quick, and I really enjoyed it. It cost about $60 for the yarn, and then I had a bunch left over. This is another thing. I don't know how to calculate the cost of yarn when I ordered too much. So you'll see I found a couple of uses for some of this yarn later in the year, and then I still have a fair amount left over, so I'll have to see what I want to do with that. The pattern was around $7, so in total this was about a $68 project, which is not bad. It's really fun and oversized, and absolutely love it. Alrighty, next up, I don't want to give too much of a spoiler, but I would say this next project is in my top 3 of the year for sure. This might honestly be my favorite project of the year. This is the Arctic Light Sweater by Veronica Lindberg. I knit this from April 10th to May 11th, and this was the first project that I timed. So from here on out, at least most of my projects, I will be able to provide an hour time for, not just the dates. So this one took 90 hours. And this is knit on 5mm needles. It is a raglan with all over cables, baubles, texture, seed stitch, half twisted rib details on the neck and the cuffs and the hem. And personally, I made a size 3. The finished bust circumference ranges from 37 to 63 inches with 4 to 8 inches of positive ease recommended. So I feel like that's pretty decent size inclusivity. And personally, the size 3 was a little bit on the more oversized end, but I was interested in that style. And I used Drops Daisy in 01 Off-White, which is 100% wool, 110 meters per 50 grams. And then I held that together with Drops Kid Silk in also 01 Off-White. Very happy with my color choice. I just think it's so classic, so beautiful. I decided not to fold in and sew in the collar, which is what's recommended, just because I like the flexibility. Sometimes I can kind of fold it in and it stays. Sometimes I like to leave it up as a kind of wide turtleneck. I'm thinking of putting an elastic in because I do wear this really often, and sometimes I carry it with a tote bag to work, and then it kind of stretches out the neck. So I think I did get some elastic thread, and that should help keep it shape. This one I spent about $70 on the yarn, and the pattern was around $750. So this is about $77.50, and for me for like 100% wool and mohair sweater, and so beautiful. Totally worth it. This is gonna get my first S. This, as I said, was one of my favorite projects of the year. Probably my favorite to knit. It was so potato chippy. It was so fun. I just kept wanting to do like another repeat because there's so much going on, but I thought the pattern was really clear and really easy to understand. The end product is so beautiful. I just feel so proud of it. It looks kind of store-bought in my opinion. Really glad I made it in a neutral color and I get a ton of wear out of it. It's one of my most worn projects of the year as well. In my experience, it's perfect to wear this without a jacket in like 50 to 58 degree weather. If we get warmer than that, it's like a little too hot, and then if we get colder than that, you need to wear a coat. But down to like 50 degrees, I can wear this pretty comfortably with like a shirt underneath and no coat, and it keeps me nice and cozy. And I also like to wear that shirt underneath because this one I find a little scratchy. I don't know if it's because of the combination, like Drops Kid Silk with Daisy is scratchier than with Flora. I don't know why that would be. If it's because of the color, or what I think maybe is most likely is it's because of the cables. Like, it creates so much more texture inside that it's more irritating. So that's my hypothesis. Because this is like a heavy long sleeve sweater, it makes sense to wear it with a long sleeve shirt underneath, and I managed totally fine. I wish I could just show this one forever. It's so beautiful. But yeah, that is my Arctic light sweater, and I would 100% recommend this one. It's so beautiful. I'm thinking of making another one in like a bright color and like a more fitted size. So yeah, now we're gonna get into my summer knits. I love tossing. So first up, we have the 9 p.m. tank by Tiffany Ty, and I actually knit two of these. The first one I knit from May 21st to May 31st, and it took me about 40 hours. And then the second one, this is the first one. And then I loved it so much, I knit another one with some alterations that I'll talk about. So this one I knit from June 12th to June 22nd, and this one took about 30 hours. So this pattern is knit on 3.25 millimeter needles with a fingering weight yarn. It's actually made to measure, and it has optional waist shaping as well. So the way that it is constructed is you start off with 2 flat panels for the upper bust and the upper back, and then you join them together in the round, knit down. At a certain point, you come back and you kind of add this edging in double knitting, which is really beautiful, and then go up into these double knit straps. And it's this nice scoop neck. I knit both of mine like quite fitted with a little bit of negative ease, and I find them so comfortable, so flattering to wear. I used for both of them Knitting for Olive cotton merino, which is 70% cotton, 30% merino, and 250 meters per 50 grams. This one is the color Coral, and then this one is the color, nope, we were right the first time. This one is the color Koala. Back when I ordered this yarn, there were only like 6 colorways available for Knitting for Olive cotton merino. Now there's a bunch more, but because of that kind of limited selection, these are the 2 that I chose to try out, and I really love this yarn. I find it really like smooth, breathable, comfortable for summer wear. I think the bit of wool adds a bit more fiber memory as well, but I do notice this stretches out more than plain wool because of the cotton content, but that's fine. I think before next summer I'll give these 2 wash and another block, and hopefully that will help them fit a little better going into next summer. But I already got a ton of wear out of these. They're so easy to throw on with like a pair of linen shorts. They look so cute, and it's really inexpensive because Knitting for Olive yarn I think is really affordable. I think each of these took, or the first one took about 1.5 skeins, and the second one took about 1.25 skein, or actually maybe less. This was like less than 1. So this one probably was about $10, and this one was probably like $6 of yarn or something like that. The pattern itself was a little under $8, but I have already knit 2 versions. I might even knit more in different colors just because it's like such a staple. And I said I would mention the alterations I did. So for this first one, I knit it pretty much completely according to pattern, including the bottom hem, which is double knit. I think that looks super cute. If I made another one, I would do that as well. But this one, I was using the leftover yarn from the next project I'll talk about. And so I had very limited yarn to work with. And so for the bottom, I did an I-cord bind off. Even the I-cord, I probably should have done bigger. I think I did like a stitch I-cord or something. So this does curl a lot, but honestly it's fine. Like, it's a casual tank top. It looks cute. Like I said, get a lot of wear out of both of them. It's fun to have a bright color and a neutral. And I would give this pattern an A. It's like pretty quick for a fingering weight pattern. It's really fun to knit and it's extremely flattering in my opinion. However, the only downside in my experience is that the straps are kind of fiddly and were hard to figure out at first, and they do stretch over time. So that's why I guess a little bit of a deduction, but overall I really love these and could see myself knitting at least one more, maybe more than that. The next project I want to talk about is the Top Sole by Mochi Knits. And this one I knit from June 1st to June 9th, took 31 hours, so this was one of my quickest projects of the year. And this is a vest or a sleeveless top that's knit flat on 3.5mm needles with a fingering weight yarn. So this one I used the Knitting for Olive cotton merino in koala. It has these little ties, these little bows in the front that I think are made using like a crochet slip stitch. And I do a little bit of crocheting, so I was like totally fine with that. And then there's a little bit of like ribbing details around the sleeve holes and I-cord edging, I think, down the front. So this one is also pretty inexpensive. I calculated it took about $8.50 worth of this cotton merino yarn. The pattern itself was actually around the same price, so the project overall was about $17, pretty affordable. However, I would give this project a D. I think, to be fair, the yarn I chose, like the Knitting for Olive cotton merino, maybe wasn't the best fit for this pattern. It recommends a linen, which I know is like a more stiff yarn, and I think the fabric is just like too drapey. So I don't find it like that wearable or that flattering. The pattern was clear to work on. I wasn't like confused at any point, but I just don't love the fit. And maybe that's just on me. Like, maybe I just chose a pattern that I wasn't actually going to like the end result. It was more aspirational. I like the idea of it, but I don't like how it looks on me, or it doesn't fit my style that well. I will say also the bind off is so stiff. I forget if it was in the pattern itself or just like when I looked up the type of bind off that was recommended. It said something like, oh, this is a super stretchy bind off. And I was like, okay, great. It's literally the least stretchy bind off I've ever used. Like, there's no give. And I don't remember what it is, but I'll put it maybe down below. That was pretty frustrating to get to the end. And like, I don't know, it still fits fine, but it just has no give. It's a bit annoying. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the pattern was clear. I would try another pattern by this designer, but I just don't like the fit of it or how it looks on me. So that's disappointing. I was thinking of unraveling it and using it for something else, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll go to the effort because it's like not very much yarn. Maybe I'll gift this or see if someone else would like it. One other thing that as I'm looking at it, I'm remembering it was really tricky to like sew in the ends of these bows. I think the designer was just like, sew them in, and with no explanation. And I found it really hard to sew them in a way that didn't like show in the fabric or that was secure. So I don't know. This was my least favorite project of the year. At least it was quick and didn't use up too much yarn, but it was a bit disappointing, especially because, as you'll see, I feel like all my other summer shirts at least turned out really cute. So I've talked about this in a couple other podcasts. This is the Melides Dress by Inez Oliveira, and I started this on June 22nd, and it's not done. It says in my notes, June 22nd to question mark. This is a 3mm knit fingering weight reversible dress. It's made to measure in a sense. And I'm using Knitting for Olive pure silk in the color Plum Rose. So this is 100% barrette silk with 250 meters per 50 grams. And so, like I said, this is a reversible dress. It can be made with the length to measure. I'm planning to make a midi length like in the sample, and it's reversible with one side more of a v-neck with buttons, the other side more of a scoop neck, no buttons. Because of the buttons, it's knit all flat, and I don't know, I just needed a break from this. The end result looks so beautiful, but it's just like an endless sea of flat stockinette, especially because like at least the top shaping was fun and interesting, and now I'm in the skirt and it's just like, it's just so much. So I'm gonna give this a C. The pattern is so impressive. Like, it's written really clearly. it's not exactly made to measure, but you kind of like put together your measurements for the bust, the waist, the high hip, the low hip, and then the pattern includes instructions of how to increase or decrease between those measurements. But it's just so overwhelming and kind of boring. It's just infinite flat stockinette. So I don't know. I'm hoping to motivate myself to pick this back up and have it ready in time for the spring, because I think it's going to be beautiful. And I would say I'm like well over halfway, like maybe 3/4 of the way done. So I'm getting there, but I just really lost momentum on this one. I will say as well, the yarn for this, I think Pure Silk is the recommended yarn, and I spent about $47 on, I think it was like 7 balls of the yarn, and the pattern itself was like almost $22, which is fair because it's definitely the most involved pattern that I've ever witnessed. So that brings the total cost to about $70, which for a beautiful like silk dress made to my measurements seems fair. And I love the color of this. If you can't tell, it's kind of similar. So I'm really, really hoping that I will pick up my momentum on this, get back into it. If any of you have worked on this pattern, please just give me some words of encouragement. The next thing I want to talk about, it's a little hard to see because it's black, but this is my Camisole No. 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I feel like this is a pretty famous pattern. I saw the sample, which was knit in black in Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Licorice, and I was like, I need it. It's perfect. I have mentioned, I think, a little bit my color analysis in previous videos. I haven't done a formal one, but just based on my own perception, I think I'm a warm spring, and black like kind of washes me out. But I love wearing black. I live in New York City. We love wearing black here. So I was like, I need it. And this is knit on 3mm needles. It's like a classic scoop neck tank top. It has double folded or like folded over edges. And like I said, I use Knitting for Olive Merino. I had read that Merino has like temperature regulating properties. So when it's cold, it traps heat, and when it's hot, it helps release heat. And I actually did find that to be the case. Like I found this quite comfortable. I could wear it pretty hot days of summer, and I found it like a pretty decent thing to wear. And again, this is like quite affordable. It took like a ball and a half because I made it kind of cropped. So it was about, let's say, $15 plus a $5 pattern, under $20 for like a nice tank top. I was happy with it. I would give it a B based on the experience of knitting it. I might rate it lower, but I love the result so much that I had to increase the grade. The pattern is clear for the most part, but working the armhole and collar edges on, I think it was 2mm needles, and then sewing them in folded over almost gave me like a mental breakdown. Even now, like, I don't know if you can see because it's black, which is like my saving grace, but it is not sewn in evenly. Like I'm pretty sure I followed, I think she had instructions on like the pickup rate, and maybe I went wrong there. And then when I was sewing it in, it was so hard to see because it was black, and I just don't think I sewed it in very evenly. But I was like not about to redo it. Like, but even before I sewed it in, knitting that ribbing on, or it's not even ribbing, it's like stockinette, but on 2mm needles, I was like, there's no way I'm redoing that. For sewing it in, I thought about it, but it was like really hard to see because it was black. I was just like, it's gonna have to work. And the thing is, when I wear it, like blocking helped, and then when I wear it and it like stretches out on my body, you can't even tell. So it all turned out fine, but it was stressful. It was a stressful time, just for like the edges. The body of it was fine, but yeah, I mean, like I said, in the end, I love it. I wore it so many times this summer. It's so classic. I had to increase the grade a bit. This is one of my most worn because it's just like a staple and classic, but I don't think I would make another one. It was just like not worth the process of it. This is like a product knit. But yeah, not to be negative. I don't know. I love it. I'm glad I have it. Wouldn't make another one. And then next we have the Kuutar top by Sari Nordland. You can see for a lot of my summer tops, I sewed in little labels, which is super cute. I want to do that for more of my projects too. I got those off of Etsy. This one I knit. Oh, and I didn't say for the Camisole No. 9, that one took 55 hours for a plain tank top. Crazy. This one I knit from July 10th to August 1st, and this one took about 40 hours. This is knit on 3mm needles with a lace yoke. It's obviously a tank top with I-cord straps, and then there's a folded hem at the bottom. For this one, I used Knitting for Olive Merino in Petroleum Green. And this pattern I'm going to give an S. Everything about this pattern was perfect in my opinion. It was written super clearly, the balance of like the fun lace and then the straightforward stockinette, and it created such a beautiful and wearable product. I'm also really happy with the yarn that I chose, the color that I chose. I would knit this again, but I feel like it's quite striking, so it's not like a basic that you can have in multiple colors. But I don't know, maybe I will. I just like, look at that lace. It's like so pretty. That color, like, I don't know. Everything about it, I'm just obsessed with it. I read a lot this summer as well. The I-cord straps have stretched out, so I probably will have to cut them before next summer and just like Kitchener them in to have a little less, because as it is, it shows my bra on the side a little bit. But that was kind of on me. I'm pretty sure in the pattern she said that straps might stretch out, so make sure to like really stretch them as you're knitting them, or like make them a little short to start out and they'll stretch over time. But yeah, I just don't have enough good things to say about this. Absolutely love it. 100% would recommend. It's like a relatively quick project and like so fun. I don't know if I said the lace panels are both knit flat and then most of the body is knit in the round. So yeah, so fun. I don't know, I just like can't put into words how much I love this. I feel like it's so elegant, so fun. And the cost was also really reasonable. It used pretty much exactly 2 balls of the Knitting for Olive Merino, so that's about $20. The pattern was about $6.50, so about like $26 for this beautiful, beautiful tank top. I'm so excited to wear it again next summer. Yeah, this is also, I would say, one of my top 3. I mean, it's going to be obvious because of my ratings, but this is one of my tops for the year in terms of how fun it was to knit and how much I love to wear it. And then we have, I think, one last summer project. This is the Mixed Rib Cami by Florence Miller, or Handmade by Florence. This one I knit from August 3rd to September 20th, and it took about 52.5 hours. So this one is also knit on 3mm needles, obviously a tank top with a pretty high neckline. It has I-cord edges in a regular ribbed motif, which includes some twisted stitches. And I forget where, but I think one of the hems, or maybe like the bottom hem, didn't include I-cord edging, but I just added it on because I love I-cord edges. I think it looks so neat and so elegant. This one I used Knitting for Olive Merino in lavender blue. I just placed a big order of Knitting for Olive in a few different fibers and colors at the beginning of the summer, and obviously used them for a variety of different projects, which was super fun. And I love this color as well. This one I would give an A. This is another one that honestly is perfect in terms of pattern writing, in terms of end product. I finished this one pretty late in summer and I wore it a lot. Like, I loved everything about it. It fits really nice. But the execution, again, like, for whatever reason, just almost gave me a mental breakdown. Like, the shoulders and chest were really fun, which is kind of weird because I usually don't like knitting flat. But after joining in the round, it just got so boring. Like, I don't know why. The last like third or so was such a slog, but once it was finished, it was probably like my favorite top of the summer to throw on, probably even more than the Kuutar top, because I like that this one's a bit tight. I love the colors so much, and I don't know, so it was like on extremes. I loved wearing it, but for whatever reason, like knitting the last few inches just got really frustrating. I think because it's not so mindless, like just pure stockinette, that's honestly better to me. This one, it got so repetitive, but you still had to like kind of be focusing and kind of looking at the stitches, and there's a mix of like twisted knits and pearls. So it's rough. It's so beautiful, and also maybe it depends like what style of knitting you do. Like I said, I knit English, like throwing, so maybe the ribbing was more annoying in that regard, but yeah. I honestly would consider knitting another version, but just making it more cropped. So that way I could do the part that was fun and then save myself from the last few inches. But honestly, for this one, I'm glad I powered through because it fits perfectly. And again, this one was 2 balls of Knitting for Olive Merino, so that was about $20. Pattern was around $8, so $28 for a beautiful tank top that I love wearing. Great deal. Alrighty, now we're getting into my fall projects, and the first thing I want to talk about, I've mentioned in other podcasts. Throughout October, I knit, I think, 14 of these headbands for my bachelorette party because I wanted to gift them, and then 2 of them I fell in love with the yarn and kept one for myself, so I had to knit another one for my friends. So this is, I mean, it's kind of like a standard brioche twisted headband. But the pattern that I used was a free pattern called the Lido Brioche Headband by Dominica Penduzu. I said it's just a classic, like, brioche twisted headband. I made several different versions. I'll insert a photo. Honestly, don't remember even all the yarns that I used, but the purple ones were Malabrigo worsted and orchid, and then I held that together with either Drops brushed alpaca silk and off-white or Drops kid silk and off-white. I had those left over from my Arctic light sweater and then from my fluffy tulip sweater. I also did two in Plymouth Yarns Yakima and teal, and this one I held together with the leftover Drops kid silk in North Sea from my Arctic spring pullover by the Petite Knitter. And then I also made a couple in Malabrigo Mecca in the color Zinnias. And this one I held alone because it's a bulky weight yarn. So there were a couple others. One of them I am pretty sure I used the leftover Knit Picks Swish DK in the color Crush. It's like a hot pink, and for that I held it together with maybe 2 strands of the brushed alpaca silk in the hot pink color that I also had left over from Fluffy Tulip Sweater. And then there was one that I knit in navy blue. That one I'm pretty sure I used my Circulo Sweet yarn in the color Archipelago, and I held that together with Utopia Surrey Alpaca in a beautiful dark blue color that the name is escaping me. But yeah, I mean, this pattern is super basic. I had just kind of forgotten like some of the specs of how many stitches should I do, how long should I make it, how do I do this like twisty part so that it looks nice. So it was a free pattern. I would 100% recommend it if you're interested in making a headband like this. Found it super helpful. I'll give it an A. Like, I knit a bunch. It's a super easy pattern, but it's not super unique or anything like that. I'm not going to include a price because it just obviously really depends on the yarn. Some of these cost more than others, like the Yakima is a nice yarn, but I got it on sale. I got a lot of these yarns on sale during the New York City yarn crawl. So yeah, I absolutely love these. I wear them all the time. And yeah, that was a very successful knitting portion of the year. Each of these probably took, depending on the exact size, like 3 to 4 hours. So very quick project as well. All right, now we get to a pretty interesting one. This is the Wishbone Sweater by Veronica Lindberg or Kucha Vakika. And this one I started actually back in May 12th, and then I finished it on October 11th. The reason it took so long is because I worked on it for a couple weeks and then it just got too hot in my apartment to be working with wool and mohair. So I put it on hold for the summer, and then I picked it up again in the fall. And this one took 113 hours. And it is a DK weight knit, 5mm needles, all over wishbone cables, and it's all in half twisted rib. Like, every single knit stitch on this is twisted. And it has a funnel neck, has the half twisted rib cuff and hems, or cuffs and hem, and like, I can understand why it is in half twisted rib because it creates such beautiful stitch definition, but it was a lot. I did this in the same combination as the Arctic light sweater. This is Drops Daisy in the color 11 light nougat, and then Drops Kid Silk in the color 20 light beige. And the cost for that yarn was $73. The pattern was $7.50, so it's about $80.50 overall. And honestly, I find it worth it. Like, it's a beautiful, thick, cozy sweater, obviously 100% wool and mohair. So yeah, I love it. I wear it a lot, but I would give it a B. It's a super clear pattern. I really like Veronica Lindberg's pattern writing style, and it has an absolutely beautiful result. I get a lot of compliments on it, but I'm going to deduct points because, again, this almost gave me a mental breakdown towards the end. Like, the half-twisted rib is so beautiful, but pretty tedious. And this was on me, I sized up because I wanted an oversized fit, but it wound up creating too much fabric in the yoke. So if anything, I either should have like just made the body a bit longer or done some finagling and like made the top in my like typical size and then made it so that like just the body from under the arms was oversized. But yeah, that was on me. So because of that, I can't wear it with the funnel neck up, or else the yoke just looks like too big and crazy. So all I have to do is like fold the neck down, and then it actually like somehow kind of scrunches the fabric, and I think it looks great. But Like, the funnel neck is one of the design features, so that's a little disappointing, but I don't mind. And it's so beautiful. I love the color, and another nice neutral. I love everything about the finished product. Just the process got a bit tedious towards the end. Yeah, love this one. All right, next we have another one of my top projects of the year. I've talked about this a lot on my podcast. This is the Bibi Sweater by Spectacle Streak. This one I worked on from October 11th to November 22nd. It took me 126 hours, so that is the most any project has ever taken. This one is knit on 3.5 millimeter needles for the body, 2.5 millimeters for the ribbing. It's in all over stranded color work. It's knit bottom up with steek bridges for the armholes and then some flat shaping around the collar. And then the sleeves are picked up and knit in the round after steeking bridges. Stitches are picked up for the collar, and the ribbing details are all 2x2 ribbing. Personally, I knit a size medium. The finished bust measurements range from 40.5 to 59 inches, so decent size inclusivity. And I used a combo that you'll be familiar with by this point, drops Flora and drops Kid Silk. So I will name all the colors that I used, but first I just want to like have another moment for this sweater. It is so beautiful. I saw the color work going through Ravelry and I just fell in love. In her version, there are like 2 different colors for these, like I envision them kind of as like flowers, like for these petals, but I did them both in hot pink just because there's already a lot of colors going on. And the 2.5 millimeter needle 2x2 ribbing was quite tedious, but it looks so neat and so good. Like, it was so worth it. It creates like a really nice like scrunch effect. And I actually haven't blocked this because I'm kind of enjoying how it fits pre-blocked, and I'm quite proud of the color work tension. I think it looks perfect without blocking. Worked really hard on it. I might block it eventually and it'll like relax out a bit, but I don't know. I'm liking it for now, and so I'm happy with it. And now let's get into the colors. So for the background, I used Flora in 02 white and drops Kid Silk in 38 chalk because I wanted a very like pure white. For this hot pink, I used Flora in magenta and so that's 28, and then Kid Silk in 13 pink. For this dark green, I used drops Flora in 32 dark green and Kid Silk in 19 dark green. This lighter green that you can see in a couple places is Flora in the color 15 green and Kid Silk in the color 48 parrot green. I wanted it to be a little brighter. And then this light pink that we see like here is Flora in the color 21 pink and Kid Silk in the color 04 light pink. This little blue detail that you can see in here, that's a more subtle one, that's in the color 14 ice blue for Flora and 08 light denim blue for Kid Silk. And then finally, these little yellow details in the middle of like the flowers is the color 14 lemonade in Flora and then 52 lemonade in Kid Silk. So yeah, I'm really happy with the colors I chose. I think it looks so beautiful. And I actually did have a lot of yarn left over. And I realized it was because I made some sort of like weird calculation error when I was trying to determine how much. So I actually didn't have too much Kid Silk. I had like a pretty appropriate amount, but then I had way too much of the Flora, which was silly because they have the same meterage. So that was on me, but now I have a bunch of left over that I'll use for something else. Maybe like colorwork mittens, or honestly, one of them I have, like the hot pink, I have like three and a half balls left over. So I might just make like an entire shirt or something. Because I ordered way too much, I spent about $100 on yarn. I can't really count all of that because I have, I don't know, almost half of it left over. Like, we could say if you were reasonable with your ordering in these same yarns, it might be like $60. And then the pattern was around $9. So overall, this was $108. But honestly, like, worth it. This is an absolutely iconic sweater. Get so many compliments on it. I wore it like 5 days in a row after I finished it. So obsessed with it. It's so cozy. It's very dense because it's not blocked and because it's stranded color work. So it's very, very warm, and I'm just obsessed with her. Yeah, along with the Arctic, I knit 2 Arctic something. Is it the Arctic light one that's by Kuutar? Those 2 are like my favorites of the year. So amazing. I don't know if I said I would give this an A. This is probably the project I'm most proud of. basically the entire body was so fun, but then once I got to the sleeves, I was like kind of bored and ready to be done, because like I said, this took me so many hours to work on. Also, the 2x2 ribbing on the 2.5mm needles, like I can see why it was called for, because it looks so beautiful and polished, but it was torturous. It was so tedious. Also, the instructions are very pared back. Like, I went from the Wishbone Sweater, which I'm pretty sure the pattern is like 20 pages in the PDF. This one is 1. Like, there's one page that has like a photo and like measurements, and then the written instructions are 1 page. When I saw that, I was like, what? But honestly, they're really clear. Like, once I got over my intimidation, I was like, yeah, okay. Like, it tells you everything you need to know in a sense. They don't hold your hand at all, but at the same time, it's like pretty clear, easy to understand. This was my first time steeking. So I think I put this in a previous podcast. I might have muted the video though, but the entire time I was cutting my first steek, I was like, ah, like screaming. It's so scary, especially when you spend so many hours on it and then you have to just cut it, and what if something goes wrong? But it didn't. It's perfect. I've worn it so many times. It's holding very securely. I did machine sewn reinforcements, or my mother-in-law did, and yeah, I love it. This is, yeah, like I said, the one I'm most proud of, and I would recommend it, but just recognize it might take a while. This is a long one. It's a labor of love. So yeah, and I think this must have been my highest Sabu score. It was like almost 20 points, like 20 beanies of effort went into this. So yeah, I don't want to put her away. I love her. Okay, I'll put her away. She's always here. Next was a pretty different sweater, and of course you'll notice a lot of sweaters. That's my favorite thing to knit. This was the Fat Timeless Sweater by AIA Knit, or Aya Knit. This one I worked on from October 30th to November 24th, and it took about 32 hours. This is knit all in stockinette on 6mm needles. It's a top-down drop shoulder. It's kind of oversized, and it has like rolled edges because there's no like ribbing or anything. It's just stockinette, so it rolls. And this one I knit in Drops Muscat, which is a mercerized cotton. I used the color 20 Light Mint, and this cotton has 100 meters per 50 grams, and I held it together with Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk in the color 33 Pistachio Ice Cream. So I was able to use up everything I had left over from the fluffy Tulip sweater for that color, and then I also got a bit extra to supplement that. This one was about $33 worth of yarn. I did already have some of that Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk in my stash. But yeah, I absolutely loved this pattern. It was like super quick, such a different experience from the Bibi sweater. I would give it a B. It, like I said, super quick, fun, soft and wearable. I can wear it against my skin. It's clearly written, but pretty basic. And I feel like the rolled edges make it look less polished. Even though it has short rows, it also rides up in the back. And I feel like the fabric looks like a little scruffy. It's quite casual overall. So I do like it. And then also I'll say the pattern is not even available anymore, which is kind of annoying because some people have asked about it watching my podcasts. But yeah, I guess the designer decided to shut down her website for whatever reason. So yeah, in terms of this project, like I do wear it a lot around the house just because it's like very soft and it doesn't overheat me too much like in my apartment. And then we'll see in the spring if I wear it out more when it gets a little warmer, because it is like mostly cotton, and also the color is very springtime. So but yeah, I do love the color. I love the combination of like the cotton and brushed alpaca. It creates like a nice cozy soft combination. So yeah, this one was like a decent project and really quick. So it was a good palette cleanser from the Bibi sweater. And next I have 2 Musselburgh hats by Isolde Teague. The first one I knit from November 17th to December 1st, and it took about 14.5 hours. The second one I don't have the dates for, but I know it took about 13.5 hours, so it took a little less time. And this is, I've talked about it before, you've probably heard of it before, it's a super famous pattern. It is a swatchless hat that you can knit anywhere from, I think, like maybe a lace weight or light fingering weight to like maybe a heavy DK or worsted weight yarn, and they're like charts to help you decide once you start doing the increases. You figure out your gauge, and then you figure out like the instructions from there. And it's knit in this tube, like a pickle, or I've heard other people refer to it as like a pill. And then you fold it inside itself so that it's warmer. and then you can wear it like that with a bit more space around the crown, or you can then fold up the brim. So then there's quadruple layers of fabric around the ears. Very cozy. And I really loved knitting this. For the first one, I used 3.5mm needles, and this is in Northwood's Fibers Butternut Sock in the color Reef Life, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, has 400 meters per 100 grams. And then for the second one, I made this for my fiance, and I did the color blocking method, which is described in the pattern. So it is reversible. For this multicolored one, this is a hand-dyed, unnamed DK weight yarn by the Woolen Wench, which is, I think, 90% superwash merino, 10% silk. And then for the other side, I used Circulo Yarns Sweet, which is also a DK weight yarn, 100% Brazilian merino in the color Archipelago. And I really loved both these projects. They were super fun. I would give it an S. Like, it's very clearly written. There's a helpful video for the cast on. I found it really fun, pretty quick, beautiful product, a great way to show off a unique skein of hand-dyed yarn. And I also loved the color blocking. So with this one, you can have like a more kind of basic version and then a more fun version. So yeah, absolutely recommend. And then we're getting towards the end. Next project I want to mention is my caramel sweater by Petite Knit. This is a top-down raglan turtleneck knit on 4mm needles, and it has 2x2 ribbing details. I started this March 1st, and then I put it on hold throughout the summer, and I just finished it December 24th because I started it early. I didn't measure to track my time for this, but I knit this in my classic combo Drops Flora in the color 18 red and Drops Kid Silk in the color 14 red. And like I said, it's pretty simple. It's just like raglan turtleneck. The yarn for this cost about $61. The pattern was about $7, so $68 for this beautiful natural fiber red turtleneck. I would give this one an S again. It's clearly written. To me, this is just the perfect turtleneck. It was really like straightforward to work on. It's not the most like interesting, intriguing pattern, but it's a really great one to just work on while chilling, watching TV, hanging out with friends, whatever it is, because it's like so straightforward. So yeah, to me, just perfect turtleneck. I actually haven't blocked it because I love the fit pre-blocking, and I think the stitches look neat enough. So I am absolutely loving this one. I've already worn it like 3 times since I finished it. And then my last project of the year is one that I'm also very excited about. This is my Arendal Pullover by Ellis Knitwear. This is a test knit that I did. I started this one on November 24th and I finished it on December 28th. So it took 68 hours. Not too bad. It's knit on 4mm needles with a DK weight yarn. It's obviously all over color work, knit bottom up. This one has steek bridges for the sleeves and the collar, so there's absolutely no flat knitting. And it is knit in Drops Lima, which is the recommended yarn. I used the color 9016 navy and 1101 white. And Drops Lima is kind of the DK version of Drops Flora. So it's 65% wool, 35% alpaca, 100 meters per 50 grams. And I spent, I think, $46 on yarn for this project. I got the pattern for free since I test knitted it. And I actually had, I think, 2 balls of the main color and 1 ball of the contrasting color left over, so it could have even been like under $40 for yarn. And I really like this yarn of Drops Lima. It's very like bouncy or springy in a sense. Could feel it while knitting, and I can even feel it now. It's also a pretty thick fabric because of all the floats, so it's quite warm. But after blocking, it does have some nice drape and movement to it. It relaxed out a little bit, and I'm really excited about it. And I would give this project an S as well. The pattern was really clear. The design is so gorgeous and classic, but also like fun. And the process of knitting it was really enjoyable. It was quick enough that I didn't get tired of the motif. There isn't too much ribbing. So I found it a really fun project, and I'm really pleased with the result, and I've already worn it once. This is my most recently finished one, so I expect I'll get to wear it a lot more this winter. And yeah, I feel like it's just a really cool design that I am very glad to have in my closet. And even though the Bibi sweater was on 3.5mm, this is on 4mm, so it's not that much bigger, but I just feel like it worked up so much faster, and the motif went by a lot faster. It's also only 2 colors, so it's a lot simpler. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm very happy with it. Definitely would recommend. I think the pattern will be coming out probably sometime in February. So yeah, love that one. So yeah, that is everything I knit. I think that is almost 20 garments, and then I'm not gonna fully count the 14 headbands because those are super quick. And you can see currently I've been really focused on like sweaters and pullovers, but I think going into 2025 I would like to branch out a little bit. I definitely would like to make more dresses, including hopefully like more summery dresses and more wintry or fall dress as well. I also would like to make more summer shirts because I actually really enjoyed wearing those. Maybe some more tank tops, but also t-shirts, and I have a few of those planned on my queue. And I would like to challenge myself to get back into sock knitting because I don't know, I didn't really enjoy it the first time, but I tried it a few years ago, and there's definitely other things that I had tried a few years ago and thought I didn't like, and then now that I have more experience with knitting, I do. So I think that'd be a really good goal for me, and I think I probably will start with one of the sock patterns from Sorry Nordland's book, since I already have that accessible. Those are more like lace or cable focused socks, and then if I do enjoy those, I could see myself getting into colorwork socks as well. So those are my goals for 2025, and now, as promised, I want to get into the financial recap for the year. So I'm not quite sure how to address this or dive into this, but I might make like a graph as well and show it like my spending per month. I will say definitely most of my yarn buying for this year was online, and a lot of it was from European retailers. So I placed a couple orders from Lind Hobby, order from Rito, and then a couple orders from Wool Warehouse. I also got some yarn from Knitting for Olive, obviously, and I also placed an order from Knit Picks, which was for a couple of projects that I have planned. I actually haven't used that yarn yet, but it's in stash. They were having a sale, and so I just jumped on the opportunity. There were also two main occasions on which I bought yarn in person from my local yarn stores. So one of those was the New York City Yarn Crawl, which was in late September, and I went to 7 out of the 9 stores, and I bought some yarn from I think 6 out of the 7 stores. So I got a lot of yarn in person there, and that was really fun. And then I also went to Rhinebeck this year, and I bought some yarn there as well. And most of that yarn that I bought at the New York City Yarn Crawl and Rhinebeck I still have in stash, but I have projects planned for a lot of it. I also used a lot of the yarn from the New York City Yarn Crawl to make the headbands that I referenced. So in terms of yarn, we come to a grand total of $1,270.04. However, some of this cost was offset by gifts. So, for example, I mentioned the Arctic Spring pullover. I think that's the one by the Petite Knitter. That one, my fiance kind of reimbursed me for the yarn. I placed it within a larger order, but then he like paid for that yarn, and then I made him the sweater. And then he also sponsored my Bibi sweater, so he actually like paid for the yarn for that. And then for my birthday, my mom and my brother kind of reimbursed some of my yarn. So that probably brings our total down closer to somewhere in the range of like $700 to $800, which I feel like even $1,200 if you break it down is like $100 per month. And I don't think that's too unreasonable for a hobby that I engage with every day, often for multiple hours a day. Once we bring it down to like 700 or 800, that's a range I feel pretty good about. And my stash right now is really full. So my hope is definitely for next year to spend less than this, but get as much enjoyment out of my knitting hobby. For notions, I bought a number of items, some of which I have here to show you in different forms. So the first item I bought back in March was a set of needle stoppers. So it comes with different flowers and different leaves. And this is literally just what I have on my desk. I am surrounded by knitting. So I really love those, and I get a ton of use out of them. I think it came with 8 sets, which is great, especially as I've moved away from monogamous knitting into having more projects on the go, and so it really helps with storing projects and making sure that the stitches are secure on the needles. The next thing I bought was my wooden interchangeable set from Knit Picks, and I didn't mention the set of stoppers was $9 for 8 pairs. Pretty decent. I bought the wooden interchangeable set from Knit Picks. This was about $64, and I also bought this in March. I really love these. They are, I'll show the bigger one so you can see. They have this beautiful like painted design, and for this set, I've had a really, really good experience. Like, none of the cables have broken. I feel like they join really securely as long as you use a little metal thing to like twist it. And the set comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pairs of tips ranging from 3.5 millimeters to 8 millimeters. And it also comes with two 24-inch cords, a 32-inch and a 40-inch, I believe. And then it also comes with all of these little like screw ends that you can use to like put caps on your cords if you want to use the tips for something else. So those come in handy for me, for instance, when I want to like put the body on hold and work on the sleeves or something like that, but I don't want to have to take out the long cord. And they also have these little silver things that could actually join together two cords if you want to make an even longer one. So love that. I've had a really good experience with this. After that, in May, I bought a set of 9 blocking mats as well as blocking pins. That was $28, and they're over there on the floor right now. I use those a ton. I think they're great. I wish I had like a couple more of the mats. I think I mentioned it comes with 9, so it could be like a 3x3 square, but the problem with sleeves is that they go further up to the sides, so I often take like either 2 from the top or 2 from the bottom corners and put them on the sides to help the sleeves block properly. And I think that's really important because often you want to like block out the cuff on the ribbing, but then it winds up either not being able to pin the shoulders or not being able to pin the bottom hem. So I might go and see if I can just like get a couple of individual mats to add on to that. The next thing I bought was this metal interchangeable set from also Knit Picks. This was around $70, and this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This has 7 sets. I don't know why this one was more expensive than the wood one, maybe just because of the materials. But this ranges from 2 millimeters to 3.5 millimeters, and it's called the Reflections Lace Set. And I got this to work on a lot of my summer projects that were made with fingering weight yarn and required smaller yarn tips. So the smallest ones are these 2 millimeter ones, which are teeny tiny, and then so it goes up to 3.5 millimeter, and then at that point my wooden set takes over. Personally, I prefer knitting with wooden tips, so I don't love these, but I feel like as metal tips go, they're fine. They're not too slippery, but they're also not like sticky in any way. And I don't think they have any sort of like plating or coating because there's no chipping on any of them, and I use them a fair amount for my summer projects. These ones come with, I think, the same cord length that I mentioned, so 224-inch, a 32 and a 40-inch. And with these ones, I did have a lot more trouble with the tips breaking off, specifically for the 24-inch. For the other ones, I didn't have any issues with that. But I reached out to Knit Picks, and they did replace them for free. So I don't know. I mean, the customer service was great, but I did see a lot of reviews online stating that people had the same issues and can't really figure out a way to prevent it. I don't feel like I was particularly rough on them or anything, but eventually it just would like, this little silver part on the end would just like snap off the cord, which was also disruptive to my knitting because sometimes it would cause like the stitches to fall off. That was pretty frustrating. So I might be in the market for a new set, but that might wait for next summer because for the time being I don't really need these small needle tips. The next thing that I bought was in September. I paid about $10 for this bag of 6 different colors of this cord, which is, I use it as like stitch holders. So for example, I have it for my cinema sweater in, nope, that's a sleeve. This is hard to parse. Here it is. So it's on this cord, and I find it like really stable when you connect it to the needle tip and put the stitches onto it. I think there's maybe been like one time in the past few months that it's like accidentally come off, but usually you just like jam it on there, it stays on well, and then I kind of have to like get my nail under it to pull it off. I also use it, so I use it to try on things when the needle is not big enough, like sweaters, and then I also use it to put things on hold. Like for example, here for my Poetry pullover, both of the sleeve holes are on cords. And you can get this from local yarn stores. I think Petite Knit or some other like well-known people have it on their website, but then it's like, I don't know, $20 for a little tin or something. So I just got these like fun brightly colored ones, and it's $10 for like all of this, which I don't think I'll ever need, so I might share some with my friends as well. The next thing I got was my short interchangeable needle set. This was $50. I also got it from Knit Picks because this is the wooden like 3.5 millimeter and up set, which my cords for the longer version have held up well. So I have a really good impression of these. And this one is the mosaic wood set. So the tips are actually different colors. Some of them are the same colors, but they're so teeny tiny as or similar to my original one. And then some of them are like a purpley blue green. And then some of them are just like more green blue. So these are so cute and little, and I absolutely love using these. They're very helpful because they create a 16-inch circumference. So they're helpful for sleeves, for collars, for hats. So I have really been enjoying these, and I've already gotten a lot of use out of them, and I bought them, I guess, back in October. And I'm very happy I have them. I also individually ordered 2 extra cords. It only comes with 2, but I have been using these for a lot of different projects at once. At one point I had like a sleeve for one and a collar for another and a hat on a third. So it was very worth it. I think each of the extra cords, oh, I put that in here as well. I bought 2 extra cords, each was $6. So absolutely loving that. Both of my wooden Knit Pick sets, I would definitely recommend. The metal lace interchangeable set, I might not recommend based on the cords breaking. And then I also bought an extra 32-inch and an extra 40-inch cord for my large set, just because I've gotten less and less monogamous with my knitting, and I like having those around to work on more projects at once. And those were $6.50 each. So that was my last notions and tools purchase of the year. Altogether, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resources for knitting cost about $250. So my total knitting spend for the year without family support would be about $1,500. With family support, I would say it was around $1,000. So again, that sounds like a lot when you just say it all at once, but when you break it down per month or per day, I feel like that's actually so reasonable to spend a few dollars per day on a hobby that brings you so much enjoyment and fulfillment. So that is my financial recap, and I hope that you enjoyed hearing about it. If you're comfortable, let me know down below your like budget for yarn or how you think about financing your hobby. And I think that is all for this video. So I hope that you enjoyed seeing my 2024 projects, hearing about a few of my goals for 2025. I'd love to hear if you have any goals or challenges that you're setting for yourself for the coming year. And I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you and sharing my knitting going into the next year. I hope that you subscribe and follow along if you'd like. Thank you so much if you watched to the end. This is definitely my longest video ever. And I hope you have a great year of knitting ahead. Bye.